How's it going, everybody? So we're back talking some more Season 4 of The Boys with Episode 7. We've reached the penultimate episode of the season, and what an episode! Far less out there compared to last week, but we are moving some final pieces into place for what's seeming to be quite an interesting finale. A fun thing about Episode 7 is it more or less is a Christmas episode, although you don't really feel that most of the time. You only kind of notice it because it opens with Ryan doing a Christmas special, and then later on he opens a gift from Butcher of a picture of himself, Becca, and Terror, which reminded me how much I miss Terror. We have not seen anything about Terror since Season 2. They still should be alive, so maybe we'll get to see them at some point down the line. I will never understand what their fascination is with puppets, both in this show and in Gen V. Sure, it's kind of amusing seeing these puppets sing a song about reporting people if they're Antifa. I don't know, other than the one big fight scene in Gen V, I've never been a big fan of the puppets. Going forward, we knew the power dynamic was going to shift a bit with Firecracker, getting Homelander on her side, but what a way to get ahead and claim more power. And she knows it too. She's far more vocal now when Sister Sage comes into the meeting because of the fact that she has Homelander on her side. And furious at Sage demanding that she tells him who the leak is after finding the bug in the house. From the info we gather from this meeting, it has me increasingly nervous what we're going to see go down in the finale, with what they appear to be planning with Sister Sage employing a shooter at Singer's rally, especially later on when we realize who exactly she's employing as the shooter. Also, I kind of love how nonchalantly Butcher returns to the boys, letting them know he actually has Samir and he's his prisoner making the virus for them. Also, for good measure, he just decided to bail out Frenchie from jail. Thankfully, with the revelations last week, it seems like, at least for now, Butcher is on the right side of things, trying to ignore Kessler's influence over him as best as possible, because he doesn't want to kill every soup. And despite the fact that we pretty much knew from the get-go that Joe Kessler wasn't real, I'm glad we finally have that revelation out in the open, because it allows Jeffrey Dean Morgan to have way more sequences, and even if he can only interact with Butcher, they're still incredibly entertaining. All throughout Episode 7, there are some memorable plot lines, but personally, one of my favorite arcs throughout the episode revolves around both MM and A-Train. The reason why I'm lumping them together is their arcs are very much intertwined, with both of them at this point feeling like they've exhausted all their options and are considering trying to run away from their problems, which leads to probably one of the best exchanges of the entire episode, where A-Train confronts MM about trying to bail, reflecting on how great it made him feel, finally feeling like a hero for once. And despite the fact MM thinks he's breaking the cycle by moving away, I think A-Train makes a great point. Even if they move away temporarily, inevitably the problems are going to find them no matter where they are. It's certainly been quite a redemption arc for A-Train throughout Season 4, to the point where I'm actually kind of starting to like his character, which if you had told me that a couple seasons ago, I would have thought you were crazy. We've got to talk about this mission the boys go on to try and locate the shooter, because not only is this mission wild, the implications going forward are pretty huge. It's all around a nasty yet intense chase, trying to chase after this woman who's literally tearing chunks of flesh off of herself the entire time she's running down the stairs. It was this mixture of gagging while also laughing because I felt bad for Huey because he slips on a piece of flesh going down the stairs. This leads to a pretty great revelation in why Sister Sage is so incredibly smart. The shooter that she's employing to take out Singer, they're a shapeshifter. So everything is on the table here. We have no clue if everybody's who they say they are going forward. It was already pretty gross enough that we're watching this woman tear chunks of flesh off of her body, but there's one thing in this episode alone that I think tops it, and that's when Web Weaver is being interrogated by Homelander and Firecracker because he admits that he's the leaker. Could have done without him shooting a bunch of webs. That was pretty gross for no reason, and us as an audience, we know that he's lying. We know he's not the leaker. Still, I was horrified that Homelander brutally decides to rip him in half with his bare hands. This is straight up a Mortal Kombat fatality, which is fitting because Homelander is, of course, in the most recent Mortal Kombat. Now, part of me, I guess, is kind of happy that Frenchie is back into the fold, but let's be honest, he probably is arguably one of the worst parts of Season 4, storyline-wise, since it doesn't really feel like the writers know where they want to take his character anymore, on top of his dynamic between him and Kamiko, who also has unfortunately suffered a bit this season. Maybe it's a little bit far too late to give them all these great moments as we are entering the final 2 episodes of the season, but I do like that they sit down and try to work through their traumas together, albeit it is kind of brief. It does feel like for a moment there that Frenchie is back to trying to be his old self, even if it does kind of take a dark turn that he lies to Samir that they're not going to use the virus on Newman. Regardless of the fact I think they've taken way too long to get into Kamiko's origin story in general. I mean, we're 4 seasons into the show, and we don't know too much about Kamiko's backstory, only little tidbits here and there, extending the flashbacks we had already seen with Shining Light, and them holding these fights, and whichever girl makes noise first in those fights die. Through all of this killing and maiming she's done, she essentially lost her ability to speak as a trauma response, never managing to fully work through it. We have seen her through the seasons trying her best to learn how to speak again, with the different books and exercises she's done. Last week, we kind of saw the deep tap into some more of the dark dark, more serious tendencies. But what an odd angle having him get into this big fight with his octopus and basically killing her before paying a visit to the boys' HQ with Black Noir, still holding all this animosity after all these years towards Annie for trying to cancel him, saying that he's innocent, doesn't apologize, and then he goes and punches her. I mean, I've never liked the Deep a lot as a character. I'm surprised he's lasted as long as he has. This entire section was pretty damn awesome. I can't deny that it was probably one of the best fights of the entire season. It's definitely a bummer that Butcher doesn't have powers anymore when he has to go up against Black Noir, and the fact that he's basically dying in front of our eyes. And admittedly, this new Black Noir is such a wild card. We haven't really seen how far his abilities can go. It was quite the interesting reveals here that not only can he fly, but he also has narcolepsy, passing out mid-fight. To me, that seems like a pretty horrible ability to have if you're going to be in the 7. The Deep versus Starlight was pretty epic, but the longer it went on, the more I was nervous because Annie was getting thrown all over this room. Yet just when it seemed like Annie and Butcher were going to lose, Second Wind was just as amazing. A-Train running in to help them fight the Deep while MM spraying a minigun everywhere. Not gonna lie, it was immensely satisfying watching them all take turns beating down the Deep, especially Annie. To be honest, I was kind of on Butcher's side that we should probably try and kill the Deep somehow, instead of just leaving him here with this giant weight on his face. But oh well, the Deep gets to live another day because of this. After this fight, unfortunately, who knows if we're going to ever see A-Train again, much in the similar vein of Maeve last season when she disappeared. Now everybody knows that he's the leaker, and he cuts his chip out and he disappears. So if this is the last time we see A-Train, at least he went out on top as a hero. Unsurprisingly, Homelander's reaction to the news isn't all that pleasant, not helped by Sage knowing that he was the leaker all along. It's sort of an expected turn because it is Sister Sage after all. Turns out it was all part of her plan to purposefully give them certain info. So we'll see how that plays into the events going into the finale, but it does have me nervous, especially with the big cliffhanger ending. The hilarious cherry on top of all this stuff revolving around Sage was learning on her way out that she's been hooking up with both Black Noir and the Deep, but she only lobotomizes herself when she has to sleep with the Deep. She doesn't do that at all with Black Noir. These last few events are some of the big ones I'm going to be checking off, worried about going into that finale. So it has been kind of frustrating how up and down Ryan has been on his decision making throughout the season. I am glad it seems like he's finally had enough pouring his heart out on TV about Becca and not wanting to be a part of this anymore. But that's an exciting development, and I was about as happy as Butcher was when he was watching this happen on TV. Him passing out of the bar, however, does have me worried because it leads me to believe that the tumor is taking over more and more, inching closer to finishing him off for good. Considering we just had this really nice moment between Kamiko and Frenchie, I was so mad when it seemed like Kamiko was going to die. When Samir ejects Kamiko with the virus before he escapes, I felt like I was in as much of a panic as Frenchie was trying to find tools to stop it spreading before it kills her. Okay, so maybe I lied a little bit that the Homelander sequence where he tears apart Webweaver was the nastiest, because in hindsight, Frenchie sawing off Kamiko's leg with the brutal noises and the visuals, regardless of the fun music playing while he sawed through her leg, it's probably one of the nastiest things I've seen on this show, which is saying a lot for the boys. Of course, this development throws some wrinkles into the finale, having to extract the virus from Kamiko's severed leg. Now there's so much more uncertainty on if this virus can actually kill Newman, because the virus still unfortunately isn't strong enough to kill Homelander, and it's a 50-50 shot, I guess, on if it could even kill Newman. So I'm nervous for the boys even trying to attempt taking out Newman with this virus. The reason I didn't bring up the Annie and Huey stuff earlier on, reveal that Huey actually kept the Starlight suit all this time, is mainly due to it factoring into the big cliffhanger ending. I'm very curious if anybody else picked up early on that Annie, when she walked in the Starlight costume, was acting very strange off the bat, and deciding to have sex with Huey while she's in the Starlight costume. One of the major red flags that made me realize something was up about this exchange and that I didn't think it was Annie, besides the fact that we set up a shapeshifter character earlier on in the same episode, is the fact that her eyes didn't light up during sex, which is unfortunately something that we've seen happen before in the past. And it's further proven true that nobody can be trusted going forward. Everybody has to be a suspect because this isn't actually Annie after all. It's the shapeshifter. Way back when Annie got that selfie with that woman at the bar, it was this shapeshifter that drugged her and took her to this mysterious place, chaining her up in an unknown location. So that has me very nervous going forward on what that's going to mean for Starlight, the rest of the team, and this shooter can literally be anybody, so who knows how that's going to factor into the finale. Yet again, I feel horrible for Huey because he's going to eventually realize he didn't sleep with Starlight, he slept with some complete stranger. Just another added layer to Huey's trauma throughout Season 4 alone. Make sure you share your thoughts down below. Once you get a chance to check out this penultimate episode of Season 4, what'd you think of the episode? Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? Do you have any theories going into the finale after everything that transpired? Share those down below because the fun is that conversation with you guys in the comment section. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to see update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.